Alright, welcome back to the Super Coach Nuff channel. In this video we're going to look at the team list for round 6 of the 2024 NRL season. But before we do, we've got about 10 minutes until they drop at 4 PM now. So I had to wait a little bit longer now in Queensland here for them, but pretty full on day, so it's kind of worked out quite well. We'll go through first of all the Supercoach Draft League, which I always seem to forget in the round reviews. And I guess, probably one I want to forget this week, but it wasn't done intentionally. Comprehensively beaten by Liam's team, Croker's His Hoss. But we'll have a bit of a look at the team that I ended up putting out on the park. As you can see, quite a few DNPs. I don't know what happened there. Barnett was supposed to come on. Obviously, that substitution didn't go through when I noticed Nat Butcher was laid out on Friday. So it was a little bit rushed. But that's neither here nor there at this point. But Marshall King with a 70 is good. Max King with a 70 as well. And obviously Talon May with the 21 we talked about yesterday. Hopefully some more minutes for him this week. Isaiah Yeo just keeps punching out big scores with 79, or solid scores, not massive by any stretch. But he's on the bye this week, which is a bit flat. Nat Butcher, as I said, I was supposed to bring in Barnett, and I'll probably end up getting Brayley as the auto emergency. I don't remember if it goes based off position or not. Hopefully it does, so I've got Barnett 60, but obviously the concede didn't really help. Elliott with a 46 is okay. Caesar with 69 was good, and Tamari Martin with 98 was fantastic. So brought him in straight swap for Metcalf on the waivers last week. Centre wings, Carraz with a 41 we've discussed, and Bostock we've covered. Zach Laywat with a 47, and has been confirmed he's out for the season with an ACL. So given the injuries of the Bulldogs, we might be able to just slot Wilson in, or we might try to pick up his replacement. I think if it's Tommy Chester, who played in round 1, or whichever round it was that Laywat missed initially, I think he may only be at fullback. We'll have a quick look. Yeah, so he's only fullback at the time, so that doesn't really help us. Might be a handy pickup for someone who's looking for a bit of depth at fullback. Rocco Berry with the 62 is good, and obviously, Captain Tedesco was the big downfall. If I captain, say, or even if Tedesco scored at his average of 70, it would have been another 140 points. Would have been a bit closer, but not close enough. And perhaps with the 50. So if we have a look at the Crokers, so I had Sam Walker as well. So I can't sort of be too critical of the Tedesco chaos. But Lomax's VC obviously way outscored Pappenhausen. So, some solid returns from the likes of Latrell, Fanua Blake, RTS. Stefano with the 84 is pretty nice to have too. And Reece Robson with the 117. So, getting a couple of tons in your team. And again, the hundreds just seem to be all around my squads and my picks this week, which was unfortunate, but it can happen. Just have a look at the other matchups. So Johnson in the Haas getting the win over Pole in my Haas in the backdoor derby, we might call that, by about 100. Shano's Guns with 1050, the top scorer this week. So we'll have to spec his team. So your mum's hole had Scotty Drinkwater, but could only get 11 on the park, which doesn't help. I guess, looking at that bench, there's a lot of unavailables this week. But VC on Jerome Hughes, which was a nice result for Shano. Tupo and Curran was solid. Tommy Travojevic as well. So Hughes and Travojevic is a pretty handy combo through the spine. Abby Coruscant was solid. Talangi with a 79 is one that obviously only would come up here. And Timoko with a 124. So again, 3 tons in the team. Obviously helps with the overall scoring. And yes, Scotty Drinkwater is captain, but I guess, just running out of troops cost Jordan there. and Roscoe with a 967 as well. So Captain Ponga, which was nice. Had Dylan Edwards in the flex. So I think, yeah, I might have talked about his team last week as well because of that combo. Very scary one to be up against. Although Edwards will be on the bye this week. So how's the league table looking? I don't even know. So Liam and Roscoe crushing it. So I guess probably makes sense that I got beaten by so much by Liam. But still in the top four, which is nice. But yeah, it looks like everyone's still a chance. We've still got heaps of time to go. There's no need to stress about that. I'm sure things will progress as they will. And the sports deck as well. We'll go through. We've got about 5 minutes. So 693 this week, which is obviously in line with all the other low efforts across the board from my teams this week, which sort of dropped me a few hundred ranks. We're still in the top 1,000, so it's not the end of the world. I guess just quickly trying to pick on players that we haven't necessarily covered so far. Marshall King I had in my draft. Coruscant we think we talked about. Tom Flegel with a 29 and a possible shoulder injury. So I've got Hughes to cover, but we may look at upgrading for Feeder. Hopgood was my captain with the 60, which was pretty solid. So this is probably, I guess, the only one where I could get out of the, having Tedesco as the VC. So this might be a bit of a hint in my Supercoach team to try and find an elite forward option that's a bit more of a higher base type safe captain option, such as Hopgood might be on the radar. Curran with the 50, Burbo with the 30. So I feel like I talked about all these guys in the videos yesterday. Flanagan, I think I have him in NRL fantasy. So Ponga and Turbo in this format is pretty nice. Um, yeah, so in terms of this game day or this league, so a heavy defeat again, just in line with the rest of the leagues, with cutout pass to Daly, so Anthony's team, so captaining the Hammer as well, so I didn't get rewarded for that, but Jesse Arthur scored well with the 71. It's a lot of different differentials in this, considering it's a open format, but I like it. So the likes of Robson, Holmes, Cotter scoring well, even Fanua Blake and Cook in the 50s. We just had too many scores around the 20 mark, and obviously the -1 for Teddy wasn't good. Only -1 for Dom Young in this format, so that's interesting. Mustn't get penalised for being sent off in Dream Team. Very interesting. Across the board, so I feel like we feature Guns N' Roses every week, but this is the team to beat, I'm guessing. So Scott Drinkwater's captains, SJ in the halves. Got Ponga as well, Turbo, like yeah, all those big hitters in the halves and the centre wing fullbacks rather going off this week. So fantastic. Can you see how people are doing overall in this league? I'm guessing total points. So I guess cut out to Daily top of the ladder along with Guns N' Roses, so that makes sense. And yeah, so 29th and Shane's 38th overall. There you go. Cut out past the Daly's 420 overall. So good to see a couple of the boys way up there. Especially how do you get 71 down, but it's less 71, so moved up from 100 into the top 30. So well done, Shoab. Keep it going, champion. Hopefully get the number one at the end of the season. If not, one of us other pretenders. All right. So got 2 minutes. We'll just, I guess, teamless will obviously dictate this. But as I said, we're probably going to just swap Teddy with Turbo. Cleary's back. Sorry, Hines is back this week, which is great for us. I think we've got to play Ethan Strange on the back of last week's form. So I'll swap him in. Well, actually, he plays in the last game, so I'll swap him back out as a reserve. with all the injuries, we might even look at maybe Salmon. Kurt Mann with a broken hand, he might have to fill in for some more time. But I guess in terms of trades, what do we do? Um, so I guess this is similar to the Supercoach scoring where you've got to wait 3 games before price changes. So the likes of those potential debutants like Jai Gray for Souths, I think, has been sort of given the green light to fill in for Latrell. There's been a bit of chat about maybe Chevy Stewart getting a start this week with Rapana's knee injury. Um, we could go with one of them at bottom dollar if they're available at the wing fullback spot. So I'll just have a quick look. Yeah, so it doesn't look like Gray's there. So this one would have to be Chevy Stewart. We could cash out of Tuapiki. And then, rather than trading out Flagler, what we could do is sort of get rid of Fafita as a dead rookie. And let's see what we can get in our front row. So we've also got the option of flipping Curran up front, which is nice. Um, and there you go. This looks like it's meant to be. We can just afford Ruben Cotter, which will give us that sort of nice extra swing through the middle. But I'll just take him out for a second just so we have a look at the other options. But that jumped out at me straight away. So Fanil Black we can't get to, King we can't get to. After that, it's probably fairly sort of middling outputs. Yeah, I don't think we're too interested in anyone else there. But if we move Curran up, again, we're missing the big hitters like Yo and Carrigan by a fair bit. Cam Murray's 100k out of price. So, yeah, again, doesn't matter which way we slice it. It looks like Cotter is probably the best option. So we don't need to boost, I don't think, this week. We've got the coverage throughout the team, so complete. Just swap Current on field. So just having a look. Do we? So I'll just put Strange on the field because I think the last sort of spot is going to come down to the likes of Fini Furiaki or Talangi. Um, or maybe even we bench Burbo, but I think an average of 30 is pretty good. Who do they play this week? So the Cowboys and Parramatta play each other. So it's just probably who we think will win, and I'm going to tip that the Eels will win. So this might change as well once we look at team lists, which should have dropped by now. So let's refresh. There we go. We've got RTS, the Hammer, and Viliami. So I guess no begins this week. So obviously no Reece Walsh, although he does feature over here in the team's analysis. So the Knights and Roosters. Knights, first of all, looks very similar to last week. Dylan Lucas slotting in for Tyson Frizzell. So I haven't checked how long he's out for. I might say here. Just says injured. And Greg Marzu on the extended reserves as well. They just mentioned. So one to keep an eye on. Although we haven't really had much of Jenkins or Twala, but if you've got Marzu and held him, he might be back. The Roosters looks like they're a bit down on troops. Got Joey Manu at fullback, which is I guess great news for us super coaches. In particular, I did have a question about whether I thought Manu was a good trade in, and the fact he's playing fullback at least this week, um, probably assumed Teddy's only going to miss 1 game, but he has had concussion issues in the past. But then also, if you sort of bring in Manu now, I'd suggest holding him right through until Origin. The Roosters do have, I think they play around 13 and 16, which is really useful. And you'd imagine that Manu would slot into fullback while Teddy's off doing his thing for New South Wales. But also, we've got Jennings in the centres. Connor Watson playing 5/8, so they've ran out of halves with Sandon Smith and Sam Walker. I can't believe I blanked on Sam Walker. Both out, and Palger on the other wing covering for Dom Young. So Yeah, the Roosters just doing their best by the looks of it. So Nat Butcher back in this week, which is nice. Zach Docker Clay on the bench is the sort of option to cover Brandon Smith, or I guess any of the outside backs. So a few interesting changes there. Like I said, probably the fantasy supercoach relevant one would be Joe Mane. Um, Maybe Connor Watson if you're looking at a short term play, but other than that, not too much of note. Storm and Bulldogs. So the Storm looks very familiar in terms of the team. So Josh King is one that has got DPP in Supercoach. It was a clear miss from the initial sort of four that were added. So there's now five that have been adjusted. Um, yeah, so Sean Blaw's still in. Joe Chan, 18th man. So I guess that it looks like that Blaw has won that spot now, and they're not going to run with that edge cover on their interchange. So Joe Chan might be one to get out of for one of these sort of debutants this week if you think they're going to rack up a few points and make a bit of cash. The Bulldogs, so another team a bit like the Roosters that I expected to be decimated, but just looking through, Stephen Crichton's going to fill in at fullback for Blake Taff. Connor Tracy was potentially out injured, but it's been named. So obviously that complaint he had isn't so bad. Kiraz and Sherry will get another run in the centres. So might be one to watch for Supercoach. Um, Fantasy might just sort of sit and wait because I think Taff will come back next week. Addo Carr's back as well, which is a nice addition. Birdo and Hutchinson in the halves. Patolo elevated to the starting team. I thought he was potentially injured, but the same uh, back row with Curran starting on the edge. And then they've got Kautoga, Farmer Silly's name on the bench, and Bailey Hayward, which pretty sure would be his debut. Um, yeah, debutant Bailey Hayward. So basically, he'll be a bit of cover for Reed Marnie. Halves hooker sort of cover. Obviously, if they need to cover an outside back, they'll do what they did last week and shift Burton out to the centres. A bit like what they did with Toby Sexton in the 18. So I guess maybe the only difference there is it might be the likes of a Jarrell Skelton will sit in the 18 this week to cover the head injuries potentially. But we don't really care about 18th man. That's just for the Bulldogs fans out there. But I guess just looking at the team could be good news for Sam Hughes. Obviously, showed he can handle a bit more workload last week. As I said, I think Jamin Salmon might get a bit more time too with Kurt Mann out. I can't imagine Hayward would play in a lock forward type role, but um, I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again. So that's how I see it. If you've got Hughes, hang on. If you've got Salmon, hang on. But other than that, I don't think it's worth getting Crichton in for 1 week of fullback. Although if you've got him, I reckon you'll be doing a bit of cheering. Broncos Dolphins. So Reece Walsh named in the one, so the clue was in the sort of other article there on the homepage. Um, Jock Madden covering for Adam Reynolds. I can't remember if he was injured or suspended. Injured. Okay, cool. Forwards. So Brennan Piacora still out. Yep, not named on the extended reserve. So Xavier Wilson back in. And Tristan Saylor named in the 17. So only going with two forwards on the bench, which is pretty interesting. I guess for those of us that were sort of having a look at Willison, in fantasy in particular, might be a good opportunity to get on. Um, Jaden Hunt maybe as well. I'll have to look at his output, but he should be on his third game for Supercoach, so it could be a nice little downgrade option there. But again, I didn't really see how he scored last week, so obviously not great. For the Dolphins, so Averillo and New in the centre. So I know Farnworth was injured. I'm not sure who actually came in because I didn't see the team last week. Tessie New came in. Cool. So yeah, Averillo's been there the whole time. Um, and the forwards look very much the same from memory. Yeah, so, and the bench, Milford named on the bench. So interesting, they've gone with Milford as the cover, particularly when you've got like a Sean O'Sullivan on the reserve. So interesting, but I don't know if there's much too relevant there. So CNK, I know a lot of people talking about trading Tedesco to him. Obviously, we'll cover Origin as well. Makes sense. But again, Teddy might be 1 week away. Tamara Martin's a watch for our 5'8" spot. If he goes good again this week, we might not have much of a choice but to bring him in. Kate Wells back, which is nice. And Harris Tavita playing that utility role on the bench probably isn't ideal for Supercoach. And Jacob Laban, is he on debut? No, it looks like he was there last week, so that's fine. Must have just missed him. Don't know. I don't even know who he is, to be honest. I'll have to research that one and get back to you. The Seagulls, so Ben Travojevic named in the centres, jumps out straight away. So obviously sliding out to cover Ruben Garrick. At least he'll play 80 minutes, which is nice. Obviously not having as much defensive work to do out there might limit his floor. So interesting decision there around him. Other than that, looks like the team's fairly much the same. Either Sipley or Brown have come into the bench with Waddell starting on that edge. There you go. Ethan Bullymore, there you go. He's the one that joined in. The Eels and Cowboys. So for the Eels, Dejan Arce named in the six, so replacing Talangi. He's obviously suffered because of the poor result on the weekend. Other than that, not too sure if there's any changes. Doesn't look like it from memory. Yeah, Tom Chester named to cover for Zach Laybutt in the centres. Can't imagine there'd be too many changes other than that for the Cowboys, given their form. Yep, nothing too sinister on the reserves there. So yes, I guess those of us that brought in Talangi, and especially like myself in fantasy, only got 1 week out of him, which is a bit flat. But I guess the fact he does cover centres and halves could mean that he's only one more injury away. So there you go. Mike Acevo missed out. Morgan Harper coming in. Simonson out to the wing. So I know a few people keen on Simonson, particularly in fantasy playing in the centres, but that's not ideal. Oh, and Bryce Cartwright. So he has been out, hasn't he? I didn't realise that, but he's come back in. Kalma Tuolangi on the bench. All right, Rabbitohs Sharks. So Jai Gray named at fullback, and Tyron Munro named on the wing. So couple of fantasy relevant options there, I reckon. Um, so Alex Johnson was missing. Oh, that's right. Thompson played last week, so he just get dropped or was he injured? Uh, can't see. Doesn't say. It looks like maybe it was just Munro's spot all along. He's just been slotted straight in. Brilliant. Uh, just realised there's no Damien Cook. What happened there? He's in jumper 18. Wow. Massive call. Mamazula's getting a start. So they definitely have swung the axe at the Rabbitohs, but maybe a bit of pressure getting to Demetrio, the coach. And on the bench, Cheekham plays on the edge, and then the three sort of middle forwards. Talis Duncan, I don't know if he had been dropped, but he is now. But yeah, Damien Cook, that's a massive out. So Mamazaurus, we might have a sneaky look at in fantasy, see if there's any upside there. Potentially Havili will take some minutes. And for the Sharks, so Kale Oro has been named again in the centres. Talakai being demoted to the bench. So with Nikora coming back from suspension, so number one target I think for fantasy this week, Kale Oro might be a straight swap for Talangi after his demotion. The forward pack looks pretty much as good as it could though. So yeah, Nicker is back. Obviously Hines had the bye last week, so he's good to go. And against an embattled South team, could be worth a captaincy shout. Uh, Tigers, Dragons. We're getting into the Sunday games. Starting with the Tigers. Back seven looks fairly familiar. Forward pack, yeah, looks very same. Maybe Matamua would be a addition. Oh, it says there's a few out. Bateman out. Who's playing for Bateman? Oh, Seyfarth playing on the edge. Okay, nice. Um, Naden's out. Who would have been? I don't know. I'll probably say down here. So Justin Matamua. Don't know. Maybe some was it? I don't know. Some one of these guys must have did. Brent Naden play on the bench. I don't know. That's got me shook. Dragons looks very much the same. So Laurie named on the bench. Jack DeBella named on the bench too. So I think there might be those last minute switches with Tom Eisenhuth coming off the bench, but he's scoring well for those who kept the faith. That I never really sort of had too much of in him. But yeah, good pick, dual position, all that good stuff. Yeah, cool. Last game, Raiders Titans. So Chevy Stewart named a fullback as suggested James Schiller. So probably cheapie of the week for Supercoach. Third game up against the Titans, who haven't defended the best this season. So let's get on the Schiller train. Other than that, you know, looks the same. Zach Hosking back this week, which is good for those who still have him. And Trey Mooney named on the bench. So I saw a little sort of article about him pumping him up that he'd get his chance, and it looks like starting this week is that time. So still no Albert Hopewadi. So I guess the only thing with the James Schiller pick is we're not sure whether Albert Hopewadi is going to come straight back in once he gets over the burnt hand or whatever, burnt arm, whatever it was, accident that he had. So, so there is a bit of an asterisk over it. It's not as cut and dried as must bring in, but still going to say probably the best trade in option cheapie this week for Supercoach. And for the Titans, so I think that back five's the same as what it was last week. So Cleese Haas named it lock. So I did note that he played big minutes alongside Fafita and Fermor, playing 80. So a bit of regret that I trade him out of fantasy now if he's been elevated into that 13 spot. Given his brother's ability to do a lot of work in the middle, might be one that I got off of too soon. And I hope that he does upset me because it'd be good to see him do well. um, but again, other than that, looks very much the same. So yeah, it looks like the only ins are the ones on the extended reserve. Although, yeah, not sure what's happened there. So Kieran Foran got an ankle injury, but his name's okay. Cool, fantastic. So, all right. So I guess yeah, we won't get too deep into what that means for our teams, but I guess just a quick sort of winners. James Schiller being probably the most obvious one. Um, no one really there. But I guess, the Rabbitohs, the likes of Gray, Munro, Mamazoulis as well. So Damien Cook being probably the big loser from team list. Kale Oro, another winner. And then after that, I think it's more so up in the first couple of games. So maybe Ben Travojevic as a loser, moving to centre, but probably means he's going to get the 80 minutes. So that's a win. um, Bulldogs and sort of Roosters. So I think, Sam Hughes is a winner from this team list. Joey Manu as well, big winner from the Roosters team list. But we'll wrap the video up there. It's probably been way too long as it is. So, as always, thanks very much for watching. If you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy, the team list sort of commentary. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content. We are now over 340 subscribers, which is amazing. So thanks to everyone who's got on board recently, as well as those that have been here for a long time. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.